today is Queen Elizabeth's state funeral that is underway right now in London, as there is a procession going on with millions of people who've lined up to see the Queen, as it'll be the final time that she will be going through the streets of London to Windsor Castle. And as the coverage continues, well, you can make sure that you can watch all of that here at Y Media. Now, Britain and the world is saying their final goodbye to Queen Elizabeth II at the state funeral that is taking place today, where you have presidents, kings, princes, prime ministers, world leaders, and crowds who've lined up to see the Queen, who have served 70 years, reigned as the monarch of the United Kingdom. There she is. This took place just earlier today as her coffin enters Westminster Abbey. This is a place where you can see the procession continue into the church as the royal family is behind the coffin. You have King Charles III and his sons, Prince Harry and Prince William, behind them, and his siblings, Princess Anne, who's the Princess Royal. You have Prince Andrew and his other brother who are in attendance. There you have. Now what you're seeing here is over the weekend, these are the grandchildren of the Queen when her coffin was laying at rest. 4 visitors, millions of visitors came to see her, pay their respects. This is when her grandchildren entered. And we're gonna go back to that scene so we can see the full version of it. And there you have that, and this is the moment where you're seeing all her grandchildren taking a moment of silence for their grandmother by her coffin. And this took place just over the weekend before the state funeral. And you can see that they take a moment of silence as the crowds are coming in and paying their respects. And these crowds, we're talking about crowds that had lined up for throughout the night. David Beckham was interviewed in this crowd. He said he arrived at 2 a.m. but still waited 12 hours to be able to walk in and to be able to have that moment to pay their respects for the Queen, who served 70 years of service. She ascended to the throne at the age of 25, and she served until the age of 96 years old. And today we're going to go right now back to earlier today, what you saw in Westminster Abbey, with the coffin being brought into the church, where you had all of leaders from around the world. It is a packed day of events today in the city of London and in Windsor. As the doors opened of Westminster Hall, the doors are 900 years old, if you can imagine. And you have mourners who are there in millions who have filed the streets with, and you can see her coffin is being pulled in. It's draped with the flag, as many have waited for hours just to be able to get a glimpse of it. Now it is fairly cold in the UK right now, so you can imagine people, stayed overnight through the cold nights to be able to get a visual of the Queen. And that's the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his wife, who have now attended with other world leaders who are coming in. Now, this is the first state funeral since Winston Churchill, which with this level of attendance. You have 142 Royal Navy sailors who drew the gun carrying the carriage for Queen Elizabeth II's coffin to Westminster Abbey. You had King Charles III and his sons Prince William and Harry, who walked behind the coffin as bagpipers played. You have pallbearers carrying in the coffin into the Abbey, where there's around 2,000 people ranging from the world leaders, and there were also healthcare workers there too who gathered to mourn the late Queen. And the service began as the bell rang 96 times, once a minute, and it was to represent her 96 years that she was alive. There you have the King of Spain, who attended also over the weekend to pay his and the Queen of Spain their respect for the late monarch. She has, there isn't a time where most people can remember before the Queen's reign. So this has gathered everybody from world leaders. You have kings, queens, presidents, prime ministers, and here you have, as they come in for her funeral earlier in the day before the state funeral, you have all the world leaders, all elected officials who have arrived, and there you have the Saudi king who's attending her funeral from all over the world. It's there, you know, it's estimated about 1 million people in terms of the average public who have lined up just to be able to see her. Now, the service at Westminster Abbey was for 1 hour, and there was 2 minutes of silence observed across the United Kingdom until the attendees began to sing the national anthem. In the national anthem, while it was declared by God Save the King, this is now what is in the national anthem. Before it was God Save the Queen, now it's God Save the King. And this is what you're seeing are the grandchildren of the Queen, the late Queen, who are arriving at the state funeral. Now, today has been declared a public holiday in honor of Queen Elizabeth II, who died on September 8th. And as hundreds of thousands of people are descending, what you're seeing, partaking in this historic moment, and that is the Queen's family walking into Westminster Abbey, as well as other people who are in attendees earlier today. Now, this is what you're seeing is that is Catherine, who's now Princess of Wales, with the Queen now, Queen Camilla. She is Queen Consort. Her and King Charles III ascended to the throne on September 8th. They were proclaimed shortly after the following day, as the 10 days of the processions have taken place throughout the United Kingdom.